This week on the podcast, strap yourself in for a banger. I welcome back my old friend, degenerate gambler Howard Lindzon. We talk about StockTwits, about social leverage, about his early investment in Robinhood, about why he's concerned about the degeneracy economy between meme coins and end-of-day options and parlays. He's concerned about what the next generation is doing. I thought this conversation was hilarious, and I think you will also. With no further ado, my sit down with the one and only Howard Lindzon. Howard Lindzon, welcome back to Bloomberg.
Wow. If only my kids could hear that.
I know. They think you're just an old man. They
wince.
Use the finger and ask for pity. Surgically reattached.
Surgically reattached is a lesson of how lucky we are. I've lived without acute pain. Like, first of all, when I cut it off, it's amazing how many people do
Was
that.
it still dangling on, or was it severed completely?
You pick it up, you call 911, and you go. As a Jew, I wasn't sure if I boil it or freeze it. So that was the question I asked 911 because it's never happened.
Well,
to me.
as a Jew, you're only supposed to take the tip off.
I don't know
not
if you
the whole
cook
thing.
it. I don't know if you freeze it. It's like lobster. So the woman on 911 said, "Please don't bleed out." I go, "That is not helpful right now." Now, as luck would have it, I live on Coronado.
Good advice.
Yeah,
don't bleed
good
out.
advice. I'm like, the one
Hold on,
time I
let me
got to
write
call
that down.
911, I go,
Right.
let's not talk. Get me a machine over to my house. Get me a robot. So living in Coronado is a magical place. You've been there.
A couple of times.
And the great news about Coronado is the Navy base, Navy SEALs are there. It's like it's the greatest place.
They have a
in the
hospital
world.
right there?
They do, but I'm saying there's cops and firemen everywhere.
Right.
So literally, as I'm dialing 911, it's like they knew I cut my finger off. So as a miracle would have it, the young I've never really had to be in an ambulance. So again, I'm lucky. And they took me off island because they found a hand surgeon who turned out to be 30 years old, which freaked me out.
Right.
Because I thought he'd sew it on backwards or whatever. Anyways, long story short, I was at peace. Once you realize you're going to live.
Yeah.
Because I've never had that happen, like something like that happen.
Were you gushing blood? Was it frightening?
Yeah. As a favor to my wife, I went to the neighbors to bleed. So it was like the next day it was spotless in front of our house. But as luck would have, everybody did a great job. The amazing thing, we make fun of so many things in America these days. The emergency system, I needed it. I don't care what I pay in taxes. It was amazing.
Right. And
now
you still have 10 fingers.
Yeah, I have 10 fingers for now. The joke in the family is I don't want it because it's kind of like a dead finger at this point.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Will it be functional? Will you regain function?
It feels like if I'm using it, it just feels like a wet skin.
Right.
And so I'm not happy. But the doctor was like, you can decide later. It was his
If you
call.
want a prosthetic or?
No, not a prosthetic. If you just want to work with a nub. It's only a third of the finger.
Right.
So anyways, it was traumatic, but here we are.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, there's great stories. If you're a storyteller,
Yeah.
cut a finger off. I mean, if you want traffic on Twitter, bleed out.
Yeah, you'll get traffic, but no engagement.
Listen,
that's the problem with Twitter.
I want to go viral. I got 9 chances left.
21 if you want to be accurate.
Toes are not good in the algorithm.
Oh, no?
Fingers are good.
And 21, the 21st, no go?
The 21st, you could be president.
So let's roll back a little bit and start with your early education.
Mm-hmm.
Bachelor's from Commerce University, Bachelor's in Commerce from the University at Western Ontario.
Yeah, it's a famous business school for
MBA
Canada.
Arizona State. And then,
Famous for bums. Arizona
then-
State Business School. What does that even mean?
And then Master's at Thunderbird School of Global Management.
Which was a great school now owned by
and a
Arizona
great
State.
animated cartoon in the 60s
Correct.
and 70s.
Correct.
So given all that, what was the original career plan?
Comedy. Yeah, I grew up.
You and Martin Short right out of Canada, right?
Not Martin. He was already older. But I grew up in Toronto, and that
Mm-hmm.
was when I was 75 watching Johnny Carson on my first TV. You saw everybody, and it was like your living
Right.
room. And so Toronto had Second City. You had John Candy, Martin Short, Eugene Levy. Second City was before Saturday Night Live. And so I grew up just surrounded.
Around the same time, weren't they?
A little
74,
earlier.
73?
Yeah. So I'm like 12 years old, giggling, and there was no internet, so you were like, go to the comedy clubs with your friends. Toronto had this clubs called Yuck Yucks, which was a famous chain, like the Improv, but of Canada. Right. And you had Mike Myers.
Another Canadian.
Yeah, everybody exploding onto the scene at the same time. And so I was doing stand-up in high school.
Get out.
But not good, obviously. But Mike Myers would come up. Mike Myers would come up and kill. He was like 17 years old.
Right.
Jim Carrey's 14 years old and killing.
Right.
And so everybody wanted to be a comic. No different than like the Web 2.0. Everybody went to Stanford to be an engineer.
Right.
In the 90s, it was investment banking.
Right.
Now it'll be robots and AI.
Mm-hmm.
It's just what's in the water. And I grew up with comedy in the water. Mm-hmm. And so that was the goal. And obviously, with Jewish parents at the time, that ain't flying. Especially I wasn't good.
Right.
And so I went to school.
You dropped that you weren't good as like an afterthought. I think if you're successful and earning a living,
well, I wasn't.
Even a Jewish parent will put up with you being a stand-up.
It would be nuts
like
if you
Jerry
weren't a comic.
Seinfeld's mom is fine with you.
Yes. But I'm saying now if my son came to me and said, I'm going to go hit the comedy tour, I'd warn him how dark it is. But I'd say, go make it. Go on YouTube. Go
you
do
don't
your
have to
10,000
tour.
hours.
You don't have to live in
go
motels.
Do your 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
The faster you get those 10,000 hours in, the better.
That's right. So you grow up in Canada. You start your career in Phoenix and San Diego and New York City.
Yeah.
I'm curious. That's an interesting, Toronto, Phoenix, San Diego, New York.
Yeah.
How did that geographical upbringing affect your perspective as an investor?
Oh, as an investor, I don't know.
As a human being.
Kid, I was lucky.
Yeah.
Because if you're Jewish in Toronto or New York at that area, you go to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
The original Del Boca Vista. And but my dad was different, and he discovered Phoenix. And so in the 80s, like Phoenix was like swamp coolers, and he just liked the weather, and I don't know.
I'll let you in on a little secret. The weather in Florida ain't great. It's humid.
To my dad, obviously, that's
cold,
the way he
it's hot,
thought. Yeah,
right?
so that's why he discovered Phoenix and bought a home, and I liked golf and biking, and so lucky for me, we had instead of going to Florida, we were going to Arizona, and so I would go to the football games as a kid, and I was like, hey, it's you. That was my dream.
Giant,
just
right?
just go to Arizona State University, which I ended up, doing for grad school, which isn't a great grad school, but it was party school, but. That was my dream, get out of Canada.
Right.
So I got lucky. My parents exposed me to, Arizona. And I went to ASU at the time. It was amazing. And then if you're Jewish in Phoenix, because the summers,
right.
It's like New York goes to Florida in the winter. Jewish people in Phoenix go to San Diego in the summer to get out of the heat.
Right. They want to be closer to the ocean. It's a nice weather.
It's a 6-hour drive, and it's 70 degrees.
And I love La Jolla, and that
amazing.
whole area is just
it's called
spectacular.
zonies. So Arizonans flood San Diego to Del Mar.
I wish.
And so we grew up Coronado. Not grew up. Sorry, my in-laws had a place in Coronado, and so when we had kids, I'm like, get out of the heat if you're not rich.
You summered in Coronado.
Yeah, we would not summer, but a week here, a week there.
I wish California wasn't 6 hours away. If it was 2 hours away, 100%. We were just in San Francisco.
It's fun again.
It's a boom town.
Yeah.
Tales of an apocalyptic hellscape have been wildly exaggerated.
It's still not my favorite, but it's cool.
It's less homeless than New York.
Yeah, I'm not just talking about homeless. The people are still.
They're educated. Yeah. They're intelligent. I mean, if you're
it's
used
not
to
New
New
York,
York City,
it's not New York.
you could, when you leave New York, I don't know about you. I make a conscious effort to not be that New York abroad, even out of town.
Yeah,
California, especially San Francisco, it doesn't feel like you've left town.
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I just have the California bug.
Yes.
But coast to coast is a dream, and I get to live it. So
it's just a lot of travel.
The thing about, and I do like Florida a lot, But same as you, 6 hours. Like Phoenix or San Diego, Florida is like not on the map.
No brainer, right?
It's no one does it. Like it's not a thing.
Right. No, Phoenix to San Diego makes sense.
Yeah.
Phoenix to Florida, just like New York to Florida makes sense.
Correct.
New York to
So you asked how that happened. That's the rite of passage. Instead of Toronto, Florida, my whole life, I jumped to the West Coast, and then I discovered San Diego through my in-laws and my wife. And man, well, you've been to Coronado.
It's
ridiculous.
lovely. Yeah. So let me wrestle this back into submission. So you've worn a lot of hats. You're a hedge fund manager, a founder, a CEO, a seed investor, a media personality. How do you describe to people who don't know you what you do?
It's a great question. My in-laws are in their 80s, and they still ask me, what do we tell people you do? And I'm like, who the hell cares?
Well,
and the world's now decided that for you. No one cares.
Right.
So what do you do, right? Like, I think we're getting back into like where you should be proud to have like a what do you call it, profession. I don't have a profession. So you asked how I got started as an investing. I got started as investing because I failed at everything else. And which is kind of the Larry David part of it is like I stumbled into it because the internet is like water. It'd be like discovering California. Like internet was like tech. So the 90s were like, I didn't understand. It was semiconductors.
Right.
We're full circle, right?
You're not a coder.
I'm not a coder. I don't even know how things work. I never did Radio Shack.
Right.
Right? Like, so like walkie-talkies were freaking me out. So the odds of me being in tech are part of the comedy. Full circle, we are now back in a tech world. Robots, chips, like real stuff.
Let you know a little secret. We never left. It just kind of fell out of favor.
I found the goofball era. Web 2 was the goofball era. Where
Such
you and
as?
or social media, you could be the class clown and have scale.
Okay.
Now that's gone again, and class clown, you need to be a bully again. You need to already have distribution.
Right. It's hard to build distribution today.
So I'm saying
being an early adopter is certainly an advantage.
It's super, but now it doesn't matter. You have to have real tech chops again. You can't pose like I am. Like I have imposter syndrome for the right reasons.
Right.
Because I'm an imposter, meaning the internet left a little opening in 2006 for goofballs. And we got to participate in an era of free growth. When Facebook didn't charge you or have an AI algorithm that blocked you, you could say whatever you want. People go, he's funny. And you could scale for free, which is why we had an internet boom, Web 2.0 internet boom right after the internet craze. Now, we live in an era where those people are confusing their genius for a bull market.
Right.
And we're all sick of those people.
Can I push back on you a tiny little bit? Because I know you for so well for so long. Hold the imposter syndrome aside. The early internet rewarded people who could communicate effectively, be it work your way through the media, be it blogs or short-form blogs like Twitter or other social media, or podcasts or video and YouTube. There's a whole run of different ways to use the internet to scale.
Yeah.
So it's not an imposter. You basically just kept tacking into what was working. Oh, this works. Let's do more of it.
Of course, but the era was free. So you had the great financial crisis. No
It
one
was
thought the
time and
internet
effort.
was going to happen. So meaning Uber couldn't be possible without Google Maps. Like
Right.
people say Uber's great. It wasn't possible unless there was an iPhone, the cloud, Google
Metro
Maps.
Media Fiber,
Otherwise,
Global
people would just be
Crossing.
typing, I want a taxi. Without Google Maps, no one would know where to go.
That's right. And all of that only worked because of the bubble and the build-out of Global Crossing and Metro Media Fiber.
So I'm saying
$1,000 a mile bought for pennies.
No, but my imposter syndrome is born of course, I have an ego, but my imposter syndrome is surrounded by crazy people who are mistaking, as I was talking to Tim O'Brien, if this was, we went from a world where strength mattered not that long ago
A
to
century,
a world
not
where
even a century.
this matters.
Right. No,
And I'm like, people just, the humility is gone. And I feel it's with my kids and everything, it's with the injury and everything, you have to have some humility. We need to get back to having some humility and laughing at our success and going, wait a minute, it was a bull market, zero interest, there was ZERP. There was the free internet, AWS.
Right.
You had YouTube. You had, here's my question. If you aren't successful, that'd be more interesting. I want to talk to the guy, like the Larry David commercial with FTX, when he's like, oh, the circle, fire.
Who needs a
Who
wheel?
needs fire?
Right.
That was such a great commercial because only Larry David or I know the guys who wrote the
God.
commercial. That what made that commercial great is Larry David gets the joke. You idiots.
He's in on it.
You're in on the fact that, of course, you made money. You worked at Facebook. It grew because the product was genius and tricked people into signing up. You did nothing except ride the train. Now, I'm not saying smart people didn't work there, but let's remember, Game of Thrones, we're all dead. The people that are successful today are Mark Andreessen, the people that I can't, are hilarious to me. They have no humility. Is that Game of Thrones era? We're all dead first scene.
Right.
There's a hammer in our heads. And you and I might have a chance because we're the court jesters.
Right, that's right.
And if we dance well enough.
Dance for me, monkey boy.
But Andreessen, dead.
Right.
Jamal, dead. There's
Right.
just a pitchfork in their foreheads on the first scene of Gladiator.
Well, if you know.
So that's the
You have
imposter
people like
syndrome.
Da Vinci that were consultants to the king to help build weapons and things. So unless you can, early
the
days
king.
of Palantir, unless you can say,
Sure.
hey, here's how to make a better catapult.
Sure.
Those guys survive.
So I'm saying I come along tweeting, StockTwits.
Right.
It was just enabling communication. Listen, I'm very proud of this stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm also can laugh about how stupid it is. I don't have another trick. The internet left this opening, kind of like discovering California. If you're early to discover California, you made it past the Indians and the mountains.
Right.
And didn't get robbed by
Murdered, stampeded.
cash.
Right.
Let's carry all our money in a stagecoach pulled by horses at 3 miles an hour. What are the odds we get killed?
Right.
It's impossible. So the internet left this opening, and I snuck through it. And it's fun to look back with some humor at the whole thing.
You're going to laugh.
I think the hole's closed up.
So
Elon
I
owns the
don't-
pipes. Zuckerberg owns the pipes. True Social owns their version of a pipe. TikTok has an algorithm. How do you break through?
Because those things get tired, and the next gen says
But there's
just
no
the way
scale.
just the way Facebook became. Oh, my parents are on Facebook. I'm out. I'm going to go to Insta, and then I'm going to go to TikTok, and so there'll be something
I'm
new.
not questioning that. I'm just questioning it'll never be easier than when I made money. And I'm cool with that. That's the imposter syndrome.
I don't completely disagree with you, and you're touching on a pet thesis I love to ask. What would have happened to you had you been born 100 years earlier, or
Dead,
even
first scene.
or even 25 years earlier? Right? If you're born in 1940, what happened?
I'm a furrier. Look at my ox. Moshe,
Beaver
take a look
pelts.
at my
I have all
furrier.
these beaver
I
pelts.
have a cafe that has so many dishes on it that make no
Right.
sense. And I'm selling furs somewhere.
Right.
I mean, I had no shot. I have no
Right.
strength.
Right. Just think about how
I
fortunate
cut
you
my
were.
own finger off.
Right. So if you didn't bleed out, you're nine-fingered
Well, I would've
Howie
bled out.
forever.
But have
no,
you
you
watched
could
the
have
show
shined
The
that
Nick?
off.
Like
you
the-
stick your finger into the fire and you cauterize it. That's what the old timers would tell you. Get a piece of steel in the fire. They'll heat up the iron. You just burn it, and that's your
All I thought
nine-figured
about
nub
was
Howie.
is the ambulance going to charge too much? And should I bleed at the neighbor's house? Those were my
Right.
first two
Oh
thoughts.
my
My wife will kill me that I'm bleeding in our yard.
Let's do segment 2, and I have to start by asking about social leverage. You've been doing this for 20 years?
Yeah.
So from the first seed fund you did to today,
Yeah.
where you have a portfolio of 150 plus companies,
Yeah.
how has this evolved? First of all, what was the first company you invested in?
So the first company I invested in was so dumb. Cars Direct, 1998, the tippy top. As my wire left digitally my fingertips or whatever bank it was coming from, it was worthless.
Right.
Meaning, it was a Series Q.
Right.
But
But you were just early. This
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
Pets.com eventually became
But I was late in that
Chewy.
cycle.
And
I
now
was the retail guy.
Carvana would have been.
Yeah, so
you know,
I was the
you're just early.
retail idiot. So I grew up, like I said, I went to ASU. You're going to
Right.
be a furrier.
Right.
That's your chance, and a bad one because so the internet comes along. I fall in love with stock market because I had made some money at my first startup. And I had to be my own broker. And so Yahoo Finance, Jim Cramer, Street.com, like they're still around.
Right.
So those were my onboarding. And you were writing for the Street.com.
They were the dominant, like people who were younger don't realize.
By the way, Yahoo's still massive.
Right.
Cramer's still massive.
I think the Street.com doesn't get the
but
traffic
Cramer's
it used
massive.
to. Well, he's on TV twice a day.
But I'm saying this is 30 years.
Yeah.
So that was my introduction to retail investing because I couldn't afford a Bloomberg. Still can't. So
I think
I can afford the drapes.
I think you could afford a Bloomberg post.
I could. I wouldn't know how to use it.
Post Robinhood exit.
I wouldn't know how to use it
well,
unless there's a phone
line.
What? Huh? Charts.
Especially with 9 fingers. How you need all 10 fingers for the terminal.
So I was inspired by you. The Street.com had murderer's row of writers.
It's amazing.
To a new investor.
Yeah.
I just would sit and wait for articles to come out. And Yahoo Finance. So I was on the message boards. Perlman, you. Like we were on the message. Dan Loeb was on the message boards.
So Cars Direct was your first investment.
And 10 years later, I got 10% of my money back after it being successful. So my first thing was a disaster.
What was your first successful investment?
So my first successful investment was a cold call that I made pre-internet in a company I probably talked about on the last show called The Grip. It was so I had the good fortune of being an hour before the internet. Before the internet, an hour before the internet, the thing before the thing was QVC.
I recall.
Okay, so before the internet,
still on TV.
QVC was the internet,
right?
Meaning there was the whole of Philadelphia was just old people on a phone saying, "Yes, we'll take your order and your credit card." And if you were on QVC, was a studio like this.
What was the
Grip? We
Grip?
had a product called the Grip.
I recall this,
and it's in the QVC Hall of Fame. So I made a cold call while I was a stockbroker to this kid, thinking he was rich, because back in the '90s. It was just like the movie Wall Street. Dun & Bradstreet. You would get a newspaper and decide who you were going to cold call that day.
Right.
So I hated my job. That was my first job out of college, and I was cold calling to get rich clients. And I called this kid, and he ended up needing money. Like he was just promoting himself.
He reverse pitched you.
He reverse pitched me.
Right.
And I had to cobble up $25,000 from my mom and friends, and I hated and I'm like, I'm in. And then he paid off his Amex with that $25,000.
By the way, every stockbroker and salesperson appreciates a good sales pitch.
Yeah.
They're sucker for a good sales pitch.
Well, he was promoting himself, and I was trying to sell him something, and he sold me on his company,
so
which
what
turned
was
out
the
to be
Grip?
a home run company.
What was the Grip?
He was a dropout, Mark Scatterday, unbelievable entrepreneur. And he'd made this product with 5 balloons wrapped around this Siberian millet. And we were the largest Siberian millet orderers in the world in the 90s because we were making millions of balls a month by hand and selling them with corporate logos on them during the whole 90s run of pharmacies. And
this was just a desk toy, a squeeze toy.
But our genius was putting corporate logos on it.
Nobody had done that before.
Well, that industry was huge in the 90s, corporate giveaways, right, with trade shows and whatever. And we just got the right product at the right time. And
it worked.
Oh my God, we were just.
How many?
We were the ball. There's so many ball jokes, but they'd all get deleted here. We were the ball boys of the '90s.
How many did these sell?
We did 60, 70 million in sales.
Get out! That's
and
amazing.
The margins were crazy because, unlike retail, if you put Bed Bath & Beyond or Compaq on a ball, they own it.
Right.
There's no returns. And so we just had this pet rock business where, like, Compaq would call us, we need 1 million balls for Comdex. And we'd just hire people, illegal aliens, and they would come into Phoenix, and they would all cut their fingers off, like, making these things. But
you made it in the States.
We made it in the States. We spent... all our money was trying to figure out how to machine make these in the 90s, and we wasted so much money trying to, like, get humans out of the process. Compaq would order 1 million, pay you
in advance
to start.
Right.
So we'd be buying cars. It was just a 2-person company and like a bunch of like staff. And so we'd go out to lunch and buy cars because we were paid before we even started making the product. And so we were like, that's how I learned business, kind of like.
And you
back
started
to
this on QVC.
No, QVC picked us up. And Mark used to go on TV. And back in the 90s in QVC, if it was selling, they just kept you out there like a cartoon character. They hadn't scientifically gone to the profit per second model because they were surprised at their success.
Right.
So the Grip appealed to like 70-year-old women who had carpal, like they just like squeezing
Little
balls.
arthritis, little carpal
little
tunnel.
arthritis.
Right.
So we created this $19 3-pack that had soft, medium, and I swear to God, you can't make this up. And soft, medium, and firm. And QVC just kept Mark on stage all day, and the numbers would go.
Unbelievable.
And it was a miracle. That was our first success. So I was very much, that was my first internet success.
So when did
that was my first success.
When did Social Leverage launch?
So you and I both lived through this, the great financial crisis.
Uh-huh.
And that was an era so up until 2007, 2006, we lived in a world of financial leverage.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, and we know what happened at the end of that, stacking. Excel came out. People didn't have to. My dad, when I grew up with my dad in Toronto, if you did an acquisition, it was like 700 pieces of paper with pencil taped together. Then Excel comes out, which, of course, nothing, everything's made up at that point, and one sell-off can change the world.
Sure.
But we became a world of stacking things, financial leverage, right? That was the banking era. And the end of the financial leverage era came in 2006, 2007, at the same time that social media came out. So the play on words was, I wanted to, as an early adopter of social media, I was like, if an idiot like me, so the idea was social leverage, you can implode. With social leverage, whereas it's financial leverage. Of course. Well, that was pre-canceled. So I'm saying my thesis was, oh my God, an idiot like me who knows the right 3 people can just grow their network for free forever. Right. And so that was the birth of the name social leverage.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it was just like a play on words. Some people will call me and go, oh, you guys do social investing. I go, that's the last thing I do. Meaning, there's no impact. It was just the play on words of financial leverage to social leverage.
I like it.
But good point. You can blow up on social leverage.
So now you're up to Fund 4?
Fund 6.
Fund 6.
Yeah.
Wow. I have the I and the V in
the good news is you passed on all of them.
I did.
So we continue to do well until you come in.
As soon as I come in, it's over.
Well, that's when we shut down.
And I famously, or infamously, was an investor in StockTwits, and then when you pitched me on Robinhood, it's a line in the book. Howard, that's the dumbest effing idea I've ever heard in my life.
You weren't the only one.
And it was. It was. I will.
You're in the majority. You were in the majority.
I own it in the book, and between you and me, I'll say, A, it was off-brand, and B, no doubt that the pandemic lockdown helped them dramatically. Perfect time.
No. The thing about Robinhood, because I was there from day one, and by day one I mean it was another company,
right?
Kronos Research before. They were like high frequency guys and math guys, but you could only. This is about you ask about investing. The life I've led, boots on, like just curiosity, your eyes, nose, ears, feet. You become a great investor by like. Touching, feeling.
Right.
You got to be on street level. The best investors are street level. I'm talking about private markets. Public markets are a different thing.
So let's talk about private.
We were talking about Robinhood. So the great thing about Robinhood is it's not that I got it right. It's like if I didn't get that right, I'm nobody. Meaning I had to get that right. I was a Yahoo Finance user, Street.com guy, E-Trade baby. You know what I mean? Twitter user. StockTwits founder, and if I had any nerve or any tech skills or any like real balls or whatever we're going to call it, I'd build my own brokerage. Like I was there to do all that. But in 2010, even till Robinhood started, no one wanted to start it. Brokerage ideas were terrible ideas.
Right.
So you have to understand that in 2013, when I saw Robinhood, no one in America. That's shocking that no one wanted to build E-Trade 2.0.
Right.
But what the venture capitalists were doing, they were enamored, and this is where venture capitalists, I always goof on venture capitalists, they were enamored with the wrong thing. At the time, it was like wealth front betterment. The VCs were enamored with assets under management, AUM. They felt like Vanguard was the one to disrupt. So everybody wanted to be the next, if you're a venture capitalist, you want to be the next Vanguard. No one need, and I thought that was flawed. I thought that was flawed because the margins are tiny, and you're never going to build something 10 times better than Vanguard. Meaning, wait a minute, what's wrong with Vanguard? And versus E-Trade, I'm like, it's interface, trade. It's just ripping me off. And I was the right guy to get that pitch at the right time. So of course I had to do that deal. It would have been. That's why the podcast with the guy who passed. If I passed on Robinhood, I'd be a more interesting guest. Like
so, how much did you put into?
Well, we did
Robinhood?
100. It was our first fund. So we were writing $100,000 checks. So it was $100,000 at an $8 million. I thought it was expensive.
$8 million.
At an $8 million valuation. Like at the time, we were doing $3 million valuations. So I met them. Baiju and Vlad. I flew up because they called me because of StockTwits. So they called me and said, "We have this app." They were out of money, and I flew up to Silicon Valley. And they showed up wearing Google Glass. Two idiots. Like, I'm like, immediately I'm out. Like, no one, you know what I mean? Like, remember that era?
Glass holes is what everybody called
I don't know what it was, but I was immediately like, what? And two dorks. But they showed me the app. They had this guy, this Joe, who was their designer, who had been at Facebook. And he showed me the app, and that's when I knew. It wasn't live. They didn't have their FINRA. They didn't have their broker. So it was really early. But because of StockTwits and Twitter, I knew that if you build it, they will come. If you build a design like Uber, if you build Uber for trading, okay, what people didn't get, again, was they were all betting. Hundreds of millions have been invested in Betterment and Wealthfront at the time. So the Silicon Valley was leaning into the Vanguard model.
Right.
So no one wanted to do the deal. Because who needs another brokerage? And by the way, building a brokerage, getting SEC approval, VCs don't like doing work. They don't like waiting a year.
It's a grind, yeah.
VCs do not like doing investment. Now they do because there's so much money in sovereign, you can get so much money and charge 2%. But back in 2013, it was like, show me something that's working. I want to be the Uber of that. So to take a year off and go get SEC approval, to go do those things, they deserved to be.
It's laborious.
It was and you had to wait. You couldn't just go launch it and get sued.
This is in hindsight. If you want to be the next Vanguard, wait, their secret sauce is that they have such scale, they could charge 4 bips and still make money. You're losing money at 25 bips.
And if you switch, you switch. But they have so much assets, so switching costs. So we could talk about this forever. I was in the right place, right time, right people pitched me, right valuation. Everything worked. I could tell you 100 stories of like everything lined up and it doesn't work. Robinhood would have worked whether I showed up or not.
Right.
So we did 100,000. Now, obviously, we helped them tremendously with StockTwits. We were like responsible for hundreds of thousands of early signups because StockTwits users love the idea.
Yeah, of course. Free trading.
Free trading. No, but also the API hooking in that you could slide right on.
Right over.
And trade.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. Now, that idea in 2007 when I had it, Jack and Ev, like as a Twitter guy, I went to Jack and
Dorsey.
Ev. Yeah, and Ev, and Fred Wilson put me in the room with them, and I'm like, guys, what are you talking about Kim Kardashian taking a poop on Kanye West? That's not interesting. You know what's interesting? The president's going to tweet one day, and the markets are going to move. Like, this is literally my pitch to Jack and Ev, set up by Fred Wilson, who was they were like, kumbaya, a plane lands on a Hudson.
Right.
We're growing our beards. They were just the darlings. They didn't need ideas.
Well,
so they were like...
It was the town...
No, they weren't master. They weren't
for the
financial
world.
Guys. They were kumbaya guys. They were builders. So my pitch fell on like, who are you?
They didn't get monetizing Twitter through brokerage.
It's not about They didn't understand what they had. Meaning, selling ads against something that Goldman Sachs will pay infinity for. Meaning a new pipe where Bloomberg's charging $2,000 to get real-time information. Now, like Osama bin Laden getting killed, the futures, like in 2008, whenever Osama was finally killed,
11, 12.
I know where I was.
Right.
Because immediately I checked the futures, and they had already moved.
Right.
And that's because of Twitter, right? Because some guy in Pakistan saw it, and the futures moved.
Right.
Like, that's when it should have clicked. It's like, shut down everything. Delay the feed 30 seconds. And you know what's going to happen? Goldman will call you, Reuters, Bloomberg. They'll see that you're off by 30 seconds, and they'll pay you fortunes to get the real-time feed.
Right.
You and me, schmuck 2 and 3, don't need real-time.
It's
1
5
second.
minutes, right.
So my pitch to Jack and Ev with Fred Wilson was like, slow down the feed, because 99% of the population, and then we're there anyways with AI, no one gets the real-time feed.
Right.
Slow down the feed, your phone will ring for the people that know that the feed's not in real time, and they will pay you infinity to get the pipe. And they were like, no, let's sell ads. So here we are.
So you haven't talked about the cash tag, which I really want to talk about. Something StockTwits invented.
Yes.
A $, and then AAPL is the symbol for Apple.
So this is the Jack and Ev story. So again, I didn't want to start a company. I just sold Wall Strip, which which was my best work. But again, stupid
Arguably.
work. But personally, I'm most proud of it. You sell a company to CBS when you are literally an idiot is the dream.
I think that's a fair disclosure.
Yeah. Like they said, by the way, as Les Moonves wrote the check, he goes, I can't believe we're writing an idiot like this a check. That was like
that's the quote.
I said, please write that, like you in your book. Please write that you're so angry. So anyways, they had just bought my company. And literally a month later, I'm like, you made the wrong acquisition. You need to buy Twitter. Like Twitter is to Quincy at who had bought my company at CBS. And I remember there was no iPhone yet. And Twitter came out, and I thought it was stupid. You thought it was stupid. We all thought it was stupid.
It was just annoying.
Andy Swan, an old friend, was like, I get this. This is financial. Because, at the beginning, we all had our BlackBerry. It wasn't even a native mobile app.
Right.
It was just the web, and it was all venture capital. And my shtick in 2006, 2007 was I just peed at the Gramercy. So the VCs loved me. They were like, who's this idiot talking about his bowel movement? And then Andy Swan said, this is like financial. This is like a new Bloomberg, right? And I said, so the hashtag was a thing, and I'm like, it was all spam. Like if you went to Apple, like hashtag AAPL or hashtag Apple, it was like I went to the store and bought a green apple.
Right.
Like that's literally what people were saying. It was so. Now it'd be like, let's nuke apples. But like at the beginning, it was like, I bought a green apple. And I'm like, that's spam. So I sent Fred Wilson the first message, and I'm saying and back then BlackBerry was the hot stock, and I'm like, I just bought $RIMM. And Fred Wilson, who's the godfather of all this and was an investor in Twitter, sent me back a text. He goes, this is genius. You need to start a company. And that's what set me down the StockTwits path.
Was Wilson an investor in StockTwits?
No, because he was an investor in Twitter, and he thought there would be a conflict.
There's no conflict.
I agree, but Fred is the OG. Why? Fred's the OG.
Full disclosure,
Fred's strategy is if he bets on one, he does. And I follow Fred's strategy. There's other people who spray and pray and don't care who they, and 90% do that. But Fred was of the opinion back then is like, I work with you. There's going to be conflicts are a thing, like no conflict, no interest. He's very cool that way, but don't create conflict just to create conflict. So in his wisdom, he was like, what's going to happen if you guys get in a fight and yada, yada, yada. So he politely backed out. But we were backed by good VCs.
Right.
Raising money was not my problem. My VC should have said, Aaron, it's not a good enough idea.
So as an investor in StockTwits, I always wondered, why the hell didn't Twitter buy StockTwits?
Well, they don't understand finance.
They
should have bought it. You remember the last scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Yeah, of course.
The whole movie is about getting... And then the last scene this is a very important, again, why media matters to investing. And it's just a black hole
forever,
forever, never to be seen again. The best tech companies like Salesforce, he understands corporate dev. Sometimes you buy something to kill it.
Right.
To say, and by the way, it's not
and
Twitter's
just incorporate
mistake. It's cost me a fortune. They're like my Newman. Twitter's like my Newman from Seinfeld. It's like Twitter. Like,
Now who's dating themselves?
So, no, but what I'm saying is they're my Newman, like in Seinfeld. Meaning these people, it was a clown car, as Zuckerberg said. There's so many people that got rich off non-executing.
I love the line.
Yeah, from Zuckerberg.
It was in one of your recent posts.
Right, but Zuckerberg said it first.
Which was?
It was the clown car, I don't know.
That crashed into a gold mine.
Yeah. And so Twitter, and the real problem with Twitter was it was a financial product. And Elon knows that better than anybody in the end.
Although he
monetized it by stuffing it in a shell company. It's still like it's an asset, and he's made tremendous mistakes. To think that Trump end-arounded the whole thing, meaning Twitter's supposed to be a real-time network.
Right.
They have to pull Truth Social.
Right.
Truth Social is worthless other than one guy who sits on top of Twitter.
Right.
and you have to copy paste his tweet. Like, so Twitter is,
Well, on a different platform.
forgetting how bungled the company is. The fact that they owned real time and do not own real time, and that I'm the schmuck that came up with the original, like Trump is going to tweet. Now, obviously, Obama was president when I had this idea, but like that the pipe matters and who is king of the pipe. To think that Trump beat Elon at his own game is pretty insane.
He is savvy in ways that people don't appreciate.
Insane that Truth Social exists. It's worthless but for one guy tweeting.
Right.
Unbelievable.
So
it's inconceivable.
to bring
You bested my man of Orange. So the poison cannot be in front of you.
So now, 2024, you come back to StockTwits as CEO.
Yeah.
What motivated that? Are the early investors going to see an exit? What's going on?
That's inside information.
No, it's not public.
No, so
It's not. It's non-public information.
It's like
but it's not a legal inside information.
no, StockTwits is like a corn on your foot.
Uh-huh.
You can't, no, I
Just-
mean, listen.
just can't go away.
Here's the thing about venture capital Not everything should be venture capital.
True.
Okay. So I joke about this with my finger. Like, like, whose fault is it? Okay. I think StockTwits was a great idea. The cash tag was a great idea. I'm very proud of it.
100%.
I'm not proud of having to run a company 17 years later. Not that it wasn't my dream when I started StockTwits, is to be sitting here answering questions about how am I going to make money.
Let me bust
But you
your
were
chops.
very right to do this. So what I'm saying is, and young kids need to know this, like math. Not everybody gets to have a startup.
Of course.
Okay. Well, my venture capitalists, if they're as good as they say, and they are great, should have stopped me and said, this isn't quite venture capital.
Let me push back on that because I knew you were going to go there.
I am.
And
okay,
your
go ahead.
venture capitalists, and we know a lot of the same people, said, hey, there was a window to get out. You wouldn't have gotten an FU number, but you would have gotten a pretty good number.
No, I never got a number.
There was never. I
would
thought there
tell
were
you.
discussions that just never came
There's
to
always
fruition.
discussions.
Yeah. I thought you guys were on the 1 yard line.
I'm discussing it right now openly. There's always a price. Which camera? Camera 2? No. Listen, we have never. Some things are only fairly valued for a second.
Right.
And some things stay overvalued or undervalued forever, as we know from the
For
markets.
sure.
And I think StockTwits, I'll take full responsibility, we've always missed a window of positioning. And, but the good news is StockTwits is thriving.
Right. It's doing well. This is a perfect.
So I'm saying, like,
Robinhood should
we
really
were
be the
10 years ahead of our time. If you think about where public, when I started StockTwits, retail investing was a laughing stock.
Yeah.
And it still is to most institutions.
Much less so today than
Correct.
it was. Now it's...
So again, if you look at my portfolio.
By the way, the private equity, private credit wouldn't be so hungry for retail investors if it was truly...
Lead us. They call me every day.
Right.
So there's two worlds that I live in. The world where retail doesn't take itself seriously enough. And private equity guys call me, CEOs of public companies call me to take, like, I'm in a crazy seat.
Right.
Because I'm a goofball.
Right.
But I am serious, I am serious. Like, I'm trying to be serious.
You used to be 60-40 goofball serious. Now you're 40-60.
Yeah, it switches.
You're the new 60-40.
Yeah, I can laugh at myself, but I'm trying to run a serious business, right? Because it's been a long time. And we were just way ahead of the curve. Like, Jack and Ev didn't understand what we have. Fred Wilson understood it.
Right.
There are very few people that understood. Very few people liked Robinhood until 2020 and GameStop. They like it for the wrong reasons, by the way. I don't like the Robinhood that became. Like, I call it the degenerate economy, but when I invested in Robinhood, I didn't know the degenerate economy would exist. I didn't know the prediction markets would exist. I didn't know options would be their biggest product. I was just wanting to see.
Options are bigger than crypto for Robinhood?
Crypto's tiny. Options is everything. 90% of their fucking profits will come from options. Any broker.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
How are they going to make money on zero commission other than options? People doing YOLO trades.
Payment for order flow, margin loans.
That's just media being bad media.
I'm going to tell you that the big shops like Fidelity and Schwab, the single biggest line item of profitability are credit loans. And
okay,
margin.
it could be. I'm 90. I don't know. I don't go through the financials.
I mean, at one point in time, it was over half at Schwab. I don't know what it is today.
When we invested in Robinhood, here was my thinking. is, first of all, I love the product. You got to be a user of the product to be a good investor. I'm not the guy who's like, here's space check and here's a biotech check. What do I know? So yeah, the odds have to be stacked in my favor, first of all. But second of all, and they were. I was Yahoo, I was Yahoo Finance, I was I was blogging, I was doing everything.
Right.
And they came along at the right time. When the pitch for me with Robinhood was not that they were going to make money. It was an $8 million valuation. Like, at my event, people are like, how are they going to make money? I'm like, chill the hell out. We haven't even launched the thing yet. The point was Schwab was paying $150 to get a customer.
To acquire. Customer acquisition. Yeah.
And my thesis was, like Uber, Robinhood would pay zero. So if you get 1 million people, even if there's $4 in their account, it's $100. That's a good ARB.
Yeah.
Those don't come along very.
Right.
Did I think it could be a $30 billion?
Right.
I'm not so psycho that I thought I was investing in a $30-40 million company. Billion
company.
So of course I'm not that smart. But what I'm saying is I saw the ARB. And all they had to do was deliver the product. Now, it went way beyond my expectations. That's the Larry David
By the way,
part.
you didn't give me that pitch. The pitch was...
I'm sure I did.
The pitch was free trading millennials, the whole next generation. You're going to capture them before anybody else.
Well, I knew that from StockTwits. I knew I'd capture them. But if I mention the ARB trade, people are like, oh, they're going to have to raise so much money. There was a lot of problems.
No, the ARB trade, in hindsight,
the
ARB trade
was why I invested.
Would have been compelling. And again, it's a chapter in the book.
I'll tell you a great...
Hey, it's so off-brand for me.
One great story.
Go ahead.
Because this is just an investing story. So we're a very small fund. The first one was $6 million. We've done... Now we run $100 million funds. And
you cap it at 100 or...
Yeah, I don't think our returns would be good.
Yeah.
We like writing $1 to $2 million checks.
I get that.
Stay in your lane is something everybody hates saying, but I think in my world, unless you're fee gathering, stay in your lane. Like, people know what we do.
You're going to laugh.
I believe in that. I hate when people say it, but I practice it.
That's an annoying way to say I disagree with what you're saying. But but what you're saying is,
that's
here's our expertise, here's my skill set.
Yeah, I'm a good
I'm
monkey
going to apply
at
the area I know best.
So with Robin, occasionally, and again,
stars all lined
and I
up.
had breakfast with Fred this morning. We're talking about, like, you're a legend. Josh is a legend. Like, I'm surrounded by legends because I've lived long enough.
Okay.
I've lived long enough. And I'm curious and I'm nice and I call people to say hello. I'm a salesman. So who do I see this morning? Fred Wilson. Like, who did I run into? Tim O'Brien. Like, I'm friends with, like, people that have signal because you've been on the street.
Right.
And you have experience, not maybe in space, but in what you do, you have signal. So with Robinhood, and I had learned from Fred Wilson, like, if you really believe in something, and I'm not a poker player. I don't gamble. You got to go in as a VC. You have to. So Robinhood...
You're convincing me to throw money into Fund 7, and that'll be the end of your run.
But that's different. Every fund is like a crop of wine. It could go depending on how... we're wrong all the time.
2024 was a good vintage.
2020, 2021, terrible vintage. So when Robinhood was doing very well, but the two guys were like... It was not popular. All the VCs had committed to Betterment Wealthfront type model. So now they needed to raise another round. And I'm like, they wanted to raise...
This is 14 or 15?
14.
Yeah.
So it was like...
I think that's when we spoke.
Yeah. So they were like...
It.
And I'm like inexperienced because we write one check. We don't have more money. So they call me up and they go, can you write us a term sheet? It was a very sophisticated way of saying, like, you won't have to, like, actually invest, but if you come in, like, we can kind of shop it around. So I'm like, dude, screw that. I want to invest. So over, like, July 4th weekend, Tom, my partner, and I was two of us at the time. I'm like, let's just write an $11 million. They needed to raise $11 million, and they wanted to raise it at some stupid valuation. It was $60 million-ish, and I'm like, well, we're never going to have to really write it. But even if we do, I can convince my friends, like, this is the one.
Right.
And I called Fred Wilson, and he goes, what are you calling me for? You know what to do. It's write a term sheet. I go, but we don't have $11 million. And Fred goes, you'll find it. just do it like a 6-week, which is absurd. Now today people write billion-dollar checks in an hour. But, like, he goes, just ask for 6 weeks, right? So we, we're, whatever, you're typing it up, send him a term sheet.
Back then you had 10 fingers, so
yeah,
it was
back
much
then
better.
It was more, but 10 fingers, more errors. So anyway, we write up this term sheet, we send it to them, and they shop it, as they probably. And Index Ventures, Jan Hammer, who's like one of the best investors, comes back with a term sheet of $11 million on 65 million.
Wow.
And like a 5-day close. So like, they got what they wanted.
Right.
Oh, and by the way, index in their term sheet, like, fuck social leverage.
Right.
That's a typical, like, who are they?
Right.
Luckily, by writing that term sheet, Vlad and Baiju did the right thing, and they carved out like as much as we could. We couldn't even raise $1 million. So they carved us out. We put $800,000 in the Series A. If we had done the 11 million, I'd be a billionaire.
Right, 200x on the.
Yeah,
that's unbelievable.
No, way bigger, like at the peak, but like. But
we've
had better investments.
You're
we've
not
had
still
better
sitting
investments.
with the Robinhood shares.
A lot of my LPs, we distributed the stock. A lot of my LPs have not sold.
No one collars it. Nobody says.
I don't ask. Our job is to deliver them.
There you go.
The cash.
I want to start with a quote of yours that I really love.
Okay.
Quote: "The whole world has become a casino. Thanks to AI and prediction markets, we are all more productive and degenerate now." Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit about the degenerate economy. Explain to listeners what is the degenerate economy or the degen economy.
Well, I don't like the word degen. So when I say degenerate, I say it in the humoristic way. Mm-hmm. You and I are degenerates.
Right.
Because we'll buy a watch, we'll bet on a game, we laugh at degeneracy. We appreciate the art of degeneracy versus meaning laser eyes was dumb.
Right.
But degeneracy is an art form, like speculation. And I joke that I own and operate 2 millennials. And when you own and operate 2 millennials, you look over their shoulders.
Those were your first startups.
No, my kids. Yes, but
those
the
were your
important
first 2 startups.
The only startups that matter. And
did either of them merge yet? Do we have any M&A activity yet?
We need.
I'm not talking about spin-offs. I'm not talking about dividends. I'm talking about. Are they married?
No.
So no mergers yet.
No. My son was in a
Aren't you on the board? You should be chairman of their board.
Not only on the board, I'm trying to get them
kicked off. Also.
I'm trying to get them fired. I'm trying to get medical checks to see if anything's working. Right. So degenerate economy was born of this idea that I couldn't believe where we went, like with GameStop. Like, I was so stressed during the GameStop thing because
really,
I hadn't monetized our investment. I'm like,
on Robinhood.
There was a weekend, when Robinhood was worth $40 billion,
right,
and it could have been worth less.
Right,
do you understand? Like,
100%.
I wasn't rich, and I'm like, it wasn't even their. Blame whoever you want. People lost their minds.
Let me annotate.
So let me just explain to you, if you have your phone.
Go ahead.
What Robinhood perfected, which no one figured out, was like when we used to play pinball. There was always that kid who was so good at it.
Crazy flippers.
He could bump it. Well, he could bump it without tilting it.
Right.
And he could just get the machine to dance for him. Tilt happened. Everybody, the app was so well designed. Yeah. The app was so well designed that everybody pushed the same button at the same time,
and it couldn't carry the. I remember when
it was crashing. Do you understand? Sure. That's literally what happened.
So
it was a design flaw. It was a design flaw.
It wasn't the design flaw. Nobody expected it to scale 10,000x.
No, but if you push everybody to one button,
right,
or another button,
yeah,
and then people come on and see me say push this button, and everybody's like, let's see what happens. And guess what happened?
Crash.
Not to be repeated again. Hasn't been repeated again. And that's what makes the markets great. That hole was filled by the hole being created.
Right.
We haven't seen another thing like this. Although recently with Avis, but like GameStop broke the machine.
Yeah.
And almost bankrupted the company.
Right.
And it was many lessons in there. The most important was Robinhood, not in their hubris or anything, they mistook success for a brand. Mm-hmm. When you build a brand in 4 years, not 40 years, you don't appreciate that you have no brand value.
Right.
And I'm like, no one understands this. Like, they were one of the first case studies, and like, why it didn't deserve to be zero. Who knows what all the things that went wrong? But I'm just some guy who's like, what the f?
Right.
I'm like, how embarrassing would it be if it goes from 40 billion to zero? And Galloway and all these guys were piling on, and all these people piling on. I'm like, you don't even understand what's going on.
So wait, let me tease this out of you a little bit. I thought you were going in a different direction. How degenerate the trading in things like GameStop, and when Hertz was bankrupt, or was it Avis? I don't even remember which. some really foolish, reckless,
Yeah.
and I think those of us with gray hair looked at it and kind of laughed because we knew exactly how that was
the
going to end.
apes and all the AMC stuff. I hated it. But
But
it doesn't
that
mean I
wasn't
can stop it.
That wasn't your concern. Your
No.
concern was, hey, here's a fire hose of new clients, new orders. This is the scale this company needs to become wildly successful, and they're just not prepared to deal with the sheer
could they?
volume. And if this crash goes on more for a couple of hours, 2 days from now, this is a zero.
It was a zero. We can argue, I don't know the whole story, but I imagine someone called someone at the options clearing firm and said, you're bankrupt. And the VCs, lucky, were in so big, they had to put in more money.
They didn't have the reserve cash you
I
need
doubt
for margin
they had
trades
the reserve
of
cash.
options.
We'll never know the real story.
So technically, SIBO is the counterparty on all trades,
Yes.
and they also own the platform, so they demand a certain amount of capital if you're going to trade X.
Yes.
And they're trading billions of dollars. They didn't have that capital.
So this is why my Degenerate Economy Index was born, meaning I don't think AMC's what's in my index, which is outperforming everything, is SIBO is one of my number one positions. Who benefits? So my Degenerate Economy thesis is finding the companies that benefit from global degeneracy.
You created this last year, 2 years ago? All right.
It's crushing.
So
it's
just
free. I just share it.
Just to put some numbers on this.
Yeah.
It's gambling, it's day trading, it's meme coin speculation.
It's vaping,
It's
unfortunately.
up 170%. The NASDAQ 100 over the same time period isn't even up 100%. It's up 94%.
Correct.
You're almost doubling the NASDAQ.
And I give it away for free and I share the
It's not.
position
Why
sizing.
isn't this an ETF?
Because Van Eck always talks to me. Van Eck always like, why do you want to be in the ETF business?
So you use Alpha ETF Architect.
No, I get it.
Work with Van Eck.
But then
this is a $1 billion product.
Again, this is, I think, part of like, the age I'm at is like, I don't want to be someone yelling at me as soon as I monetize it, it'll go to zero. Like this thing will stop working. I love the idea that I can give it away for free. This goes back to the original social media. Meaning, what am I going to make? It's like, as soon as I start charging for it, the whole thing becomes stressful.
I took ads off the blog because they were annoying and ugly, and the amount of revenue it made was just too annoying. You're saying the same thing.
Yeah, I'm saying like, hey, man, I got a little thesis. It's not that complicated.
I love this thesis. I think people would be
CBOE,
buyers.
CME, Hyperliquid now is in there. No one knows what Hyperliquid is. I constantly
What's
am adding
Hyperliquid?
Hyperliquid is the thing. Meaning today all I get pitched on are by the next Robinhood. And I'm like, the world doesn't need another Robinhood. Right. But all they keep talking about is, we got perps trading 24/7 on Hyperliquid. It's the new Solana, let's call it, because I'm not a crypto guy. And I'm like, after getting 100 pitches of the same product, and they all talked about Hyperliquid, I just bought Hyperliquid.
And what's the market cap of that?
A
couple of billion?
It's like 12 people and one of the most profitable companies in the world out of Singapore. Like the guy has no freedom because he's so rich. It's like a system. It's like a very fast chain.
What's the symbol?
HYPE.
Hype.
Yeah.
What a great symbol.
Yeah. It's a token, and you can buy it on Robinhood. Again, I'm not promoting. I'm just saying.
Wait, so you can buy it on Robinhood, but does this not trade over the counter? You can't get it anywhere?
You can trade it there's a DAT called PURR. Again, I'm not recommending it, but I'm long a little, is a way that you can trade it over the counter. And again, you're betting on the fact you don't know anything about supply demand. You're just, it's the system that everybody's trading
Pure
on.
speculation.
Pure speculation.
On other people's speculation.
That's
speculation
that's my thesis.
squared.
So anyways, so the degenerate economy is about picks and shovels. We can't stop. If a young person like my son, and again, I own and operate 2 millennials, and I don't want them betting. My son will call me and goes, I can't believe I lost a 20-team parlay. I go, who are you? Are we even of my... This is why I have to do a step-in takeover of my son's company. Because I'm like...
Take private.
Are you talking to me? Like, you asked me to Venmo you $50 to put on a 20-team parlay and you're complaining about a 3-threat. It's so idiotic. So I'm like trying to teach them not to be idiots. You can have a degenerate economy.
You just need a little bit of math. The problem is not enough kids have taken math.
And you also, full circle on the degenerate economy, you have the wrong teachers right now. I got brought on board by guys like you, Kramer, the people who had experienced stuff, Fred Wilson. These kids are learning from Chamath and David Sachs. These guys were born of one generation. They worked at Facebook. They worked for Elon. You could, if you're not rich working for Elon or Facebook, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
If you are rich and you're kissing the nipple of Facebook, and that's not interesting. You were supposed to be rich.
Right.
Have some humor. Our
a
job is
humility
to teach.
A little hubris.
So my job is to teach
less
my kid
hubris,
is like,
more humility.
stop being a degenerate.
Right.
But the fact is, you can't not be a degenerate when prices. Kids are YOLOing because they can, and because
it's frictionless.
Frictionless, and they'll learn. Some of these kids will learn how to be good put sellers or premium sellers.
Very few.
I understand, but the markets are very important. Meaning, having a price on everything is fantastic.
Can I share a quick degenerate story with you?
Mm-hmm.
Years ago, my wife and I'm not a cruise person. We were young. We were broke. We used to use this website called vacationstogo.com. You booked last minute. It would cost you nothing. Like a week-long cruise through 8 islands in the Caribbean. $500, food and drink included, booze included. So as soon as they hit international waters, the casino opens. I am not a gambler. We walk through, and I just decide to look at the roulette table. Not bet, look at it. And this is the difference between my wife, who taught fashion illustration and design, is a visual person. I'm a little more of a math guy. And I say to her, so we're watching 20 minutes of roulette, and it's so dumb.
Yeah, I hate losing money.
It's for random, stupid reason.
Yeah.
But I point out to her, look, the red pays, or red or black, or odd or even, pay 2 to 1, but you have 0 and double 0, so it's not even odds.
Correct.
And then this group pays 3 to 1, but it's 1 in 4 chance of winning. So they're making money, and I'm going over all the math with her, and she listens to all the numbers and says to me, I don't know about the ratios or the math, but all I can tell you is I see people, I see the croupier taking off a whole lot more money than she's handing out to gamblers. That's the takeaway.
Be the croupier.
Not the odds.
Correct.
Be the house.
So CBOE hit all-time highs.
They're the house, yeah.
Have you ever hear anybody on social media talking about CBOE?
Never.
They love that no one's talking about them. So the other thesis that I have is trends with no friends.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I'm looking for trends because, again, I run a huge social media site, right? So if I have a choice between NVIDIA and SanDisk, everybody's talking about NVIDIA.
You want SanDisk.
I'm not saying I know
We're
much
just
about
talking
SanDisk.
about Broadcom, same thing.
Same thing. So on StockTwits, I can look for tickers that are trending with very few followers. No, it doesn't have to be early. I don't like small caps, so I'm like
No, I don't mean early. I mean before it really goes up 10x.
Yeah, so it's the one thing that StockTwits has, and I have AI. You asked me why I came back to StockTwits. 2 things: AI, and the fact that I can now code with Claude Code.
Oh, this could take 6 weeks. I need it by today.
Well, again, there's not today, but there's not 6 weeks.
Right.
Okay. So there's that, and then there's the fact that we have all this data and we have a great community. So I wanted to come back and see this thing through, and we're doing very well. The issue is now I can explain to people. And I can pull out the data to show people trends with no friends. Meaning, you want to find stocks that are trending that have very little discussion.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's just intuitive. Meaning, IBD. I learned on IBD. I love price relative strength. I've just added a layer to that matches high price relative strength with low social. It's almost like the moosh of Vegas.
Right.
I'm trying to find the stocks that even though I run a social media site, I'm betting on the fact that they'll discover this in time. You
should talk to Ben Hunt and what he's doing with Perseant, because their tool.
Yeah, they have a narrative thing.
Their tool, but the combination of where the narrative is just starting to tick up,
tipping,
and where the trend is starting
but I've been doing this
to
for
accumulate
20
friends.
years, so that's why I give it away for free.
He's quantified it.
Yeah, I hate the quant side.
Yeah,
I just visually see it.
Right.
From years of being a non-quant. I went to ASU. I don't even know math.
But if you want AI to help you with this,
I got to catch up with Ben.
matters.
Ben's awesome. But he also sees the world a little darker than I see it. I'm much more of an optimist.
You and I both.
Yeah. So,
but when I want to know what's the worst case scenario, like when the tariffs were first rolled out, not so much losing a finger, but his piece, the end of the Pax Americana,
is true.
Was the end point where if this really goes off the rails, this is how bad it could get.
It's deglobalization.
Right.
Which,
but he works out the details.
Yeah.
So
he's great.
But again, you and I are both a little more of optimists.
I'm much more simple.
Right.
If I see something going up,
you want to own
that's
it.
my cue to look. And then if it's a certain market cap, and then I check StockTwits and I go, no one cares, I love that. Then I need to tell a story. Everybody needs to tell stories. Stocks are stories. And some people are great at storytelling, the Palantir guy, but again, the numbers eventually matter.
Right.
And I'm trying to find companies going up, right? And that's not complicated. But then I have other layers to it. And I need to understand the catalyst myself. Like if it's just something I'll never understand, it's hard for me to ride the waves. So if I don't really understand and use the product, the odds of me getting scared out of a trade are 99%.
So let's talk about your...
So that's my index.
Let's talk about your startups who are becoming degenerates, your kids. Given social apps, zero commission trading, all the option stuff that's going on, for your kids' benefit, what sort of guardrails? I don't know if it's the product, regulation, educational. What do you wish was in place to protect them that isn't there yet? And let's also add, these are not minors. These are late 20s, adults, out of school for almost a decade, real people. What guardrails should they have to protect them from their own worst instincts?
Listen, we could argue, we put our negative hat on. It's like you can go buy bullets at Walmart. So it's like, what is a guardrail, right? In a world where you can buy bullets and, everybody's got drones. So I'm like more like, okay, guys, if I hear that you did a parlay, we can't be related. So like, stop betting. Betting is different than investing. So if Shane at Polymarket, and they're partners of ours, if Shane or Tariq at Kalshi had pitched me those ideas at the same time that Robinhood pitched me their idea, I would have passed. Why? I don't bet. I think it's stupid.
Right.
Okay, like I think it's funny, and I think prediction markets are news better than the New York Times, no offense, because I like prediction markets because I don't have an opinion. I just look at the price and I go, whether I believe it or not. I think that's the genius of it. But if Polymarket and Kalshi went out to VCs and said, we're the new news, their valuation would be $1.
Right.
Okay. So we know the real story. They can't tell what they really are good at, which is news.
And by the way, they're not great at news.
I understand, but either is news good at news.
It's probability of something happening.
But I'd rather not read someone's opinion. I don't need to see Elon's finger on the news because that's a story. That's not the real story. Give me the numbers. I know it's fake, but I got a number. If Mondami's at 90% and my daughter's mad, I go, Rachel, here's what you do then. Bet the other side. You'll make 8 times, or put...
It's 10 to 1.
10 to 1, but I would bet money on Mondami. And if you really want to change how you think about the world, go help somebody on the other side who has a chance. Go put in the time. Go help Mark Cuban. If you really want to be...
I love what he's doing on the healthcare side.
But what I'm saying to my daughter, I said, call Mark. I'll get you in touch with Mark. Do something. But just complaining about the numbers that you see, and the numbers were right. Whether they tipped it in this, again, I don't want to get into all like the fraud and all the fake stuff about it, but the numbers is much easier than reading an opinion piece.
Can I share something fun?
Yeah.
So there was some of the early bets about outcome of the war and different events happening. And I said in a quarterly call, hey, I don't really know we don't know who's putting these bets in.
Yeah.
But if you stop and think about it, if you're negotiating with another side, this being a psyop because you spent $500,000 to move the outcome of something, that's the least money the Department of Defense will ever spend. And anybody on their side is looking at this, they're really going to put boots on the ground. Look at the track record here. Here's a wallet that's 10 for 10. Oh, my God, we have to stop and think about... You don't really know who's using this, who's betting this, who's manipulating.
But we didn't
know...
That
guy who got arrested, that was a throwaway. That's a false flag.
It's still better than Russia and China using our social media.
Oh, my God.
So I'm
the worst. And North Korea and Iran.
Yeah. So I'm not saying I'm an investor in Polymarket and Kalshi personally at crazy valuation because I wouldn't have invested. Like I just chased it in SPVs personally.
The co-founder of Kalshi, the woman, what's her name?
I don't know. But I know it's a woman. I just can't remember her name.
No, she was a guest on the podcast. And
was she great?
She was really good. This is years ago. This is 3 years ago. I should never even thought to put money into it.
So that's what I'm saying,
it sounded more academic than anything.
It was academic, and it still is. because there's very few people using these products. For all the free press, it's like Twitter. There's very few people using Twitter.
Well, Twitter is circling the drain at this point.
No, but I'm saying at the beginning it had a lot of power, even though there weren't that many users.
It was a fraction of Instagram or TikTok.
So
but it was an
markets
important
is the same.
fraction.
It's a fraction of the news. But I'd rather my son and daughter go to page 2 of Polymarket, because you know what they're going to see? News that they would never look at in the New York Times. They can go look at the election in Peru. And now at least I'll know the names.
Or Venezuela, for that matter.
Or Venezuela. So I'm super bullish for different reasons on prediction markets. And I know there's obviously I have money on the side.
And this fits right into the degeneracy index.
Completely.
How long does the Degen index run for? Is this a short-term thing, or does this have legs?
That's why I don't want to charge for it, because I think because Google and Apple are my biggest positions. Because they are the rails for the degenerate economy. They are the front-facing tool of it.
Apple because of the phones and mobile,
and Google because of the phones and YouTube and the App Store.
YouTube,
the casino games all run on the app stores. The free games that you have, they make a fortune off that.
Why not
Apple.
Amazon or Facebook?
Amazon just added at the beginning of the year because of robots, Axons in the portfolio.
Not because of the Amazon Web Service, because of robots.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you can't not own Amazon at this era in the degenerate economy, because they are the center of it.
Which robot
you
shops
can argue
do you
is
like?
the degenerate economy, but you have to own
Any of
Amazon.
the robot builders you like?
No, because they're too early. I'm a personal investor in a few, but
Such as,
Secure,
give us some names.
Aptronic, which is just massive. But
Right.
again, it's a personal investment.
You have any interest in what Elon is doing with Grok
yeah, but it's a holding company. I don't know what this position.
No, it's kind of random.
So
meaning Tesla is a holding company for everything, but
or is that going to be the entity that goes public for?
I thought it was SpaceX.
No, but I'm saying to SpaceX. Why does he need 2 tickers? Again, I don't understand what the final being is. So why do I need to own some Elon holding company? I think that's stupid.
So you're betting on him, and you don't think
who cares?
he's
I'd rather bet on something I understand.
Okay,
Amazon.
I'm with you. I don't disagree. I'm trying to
figure another
it out.
recent ad is it's already doubled is Clear Secure. You know Clear when you go through it. It's
Sure,
just
love
such
Clear.
So to me, if the world's degeneracy, you need security. So
Much
it's
more security,
so
right.
Clear's been a home run. They don't have a lot of tech, but they're a great brand.
Yeah.
And
I thought they have tech.
I think they license a lot of the tech.
That's not theirs? They don't own it?
Yeah. So again, once you dig into a story, my conviction comes how much of this they own. But they're a hell of a brand, and the company's been around forever.
And they have the
and they failed many
relationship
times.
with FAA and the airports.
And they can do so much more around stadiums. The brand matters.
What are you talking about? You go to watch a Knick game, it's Clear.
It's Clear?
You use Clear on the way in.
That was my bet. It's just a clear trend. No one ever talks about it, too. So it's on a massive uptrend.
And
broke out, and you never hear people talk about it.
If
I like
you
that.
use either Chase Sapphire Reserve or Amex, I want to say Platinum, you get a credit towards any travel, and Clear is just an automatic. It's no-brainer.
Yeah. So
what is it, $150 a year? It's fantastic.
My son would call me and goes, that's the greatest gift you ever got me. I'm like, wow. When a 20-year-old knows something and an 80-year-old knows something, those are good trends.
Yeah.
That's a brand.
Yeah.
When just a 20-year-old knows it, not a brand.
Maybe it catches on, maybe it doesn't.
Yeah. CBOE, I love it because they power the whole thing. You can't do this without CBOE, CME, the Merck. The New York Stock Exchange.
Let me ask you a question, a direct investing question, before we get to our favorite questions, that I think a lot of investors have a hard time with. I started on a trading desk, so I'm okay with losses. It's a given. But if you say to somebody, I want you to put a little money into these 10 or 20 stocks, half of them are going to go out of business.
Yeah.
Maybe 5 are break even. You'll make money on a couple, and maybe one's a home run. How do you deal with that really fathead long tail? You're not a math
indexing.
guy.
I'm so into indexing.
No, I mean on your private seed state. Like most of the seed investments you're going to make aren't going to give you
a great
sort of
question.
return.
So
How do you deal
bearish.
with? Oh, I'm wrong all the time.
I'm just bearish on my industry, right? I believe it was a moment in time with ZERP. I think it got the country through its unintended circumstances. We live in all these unintended circumstances.
Consequences, right.
Yeah, or unintended consequences, sorry.
By the way, now that
I
you're
am
60,
wealthy.
that happens a whole lot more.
I am wealthy, just born at the right time. A lot of
Right.
unintended circumstances. ZERP is a good thing.
Right.
I'm not saying
If you
I
have-
shouldn't be ashamed, but
If you have assets, if you're
Yeah.
a working stiff, it's like I used to be. It was tough.
yeah, S&P's at all-time highs, cash levels at all-time highs.
Mm-hmm.
If I hear those two things together, what do I think of? Inflation.
Right.
There's never been a better time to have assets.
Right. 'Cause
Doesn't
they're
mean
gonna
I don't
get
know when it's
inflated.
going to end.
Right.
I have cash and stocks. It's a double whammy. So I'm lucky. I am so bearish on what I do for a living.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, what value do I add in a world of 6% interest rates, tying someone up for 10 years when I could go buy SanDisk
Right.
in the public markets and get 6,000% in a year? I'm not saying I'm smart enough to hold these things.
Right.
But in a world where Robinhood and 1,000 Robinhoods are going to bloom, if you're asking me my biggest bet, public markets. Do the work. You have an analyst in Claude.
Right.
You can go see beaten up. No one's following any stock. Everybody's momentum investing. Go find 10 companies.
So
Why would you do a startup investing? Every kid wants to be an angel investor. I'm like, dude, do it in the public markets. You have liquidity, and you're not locking up your clients for 10 years.
But you're not answering my question.
Okay.
Which is, how do you, as an investor, deal with the psychology of knowing most of your seed investments aren't going to work out? Is it just the nature of the beast?
No.
Or does that weigh on you at all?
No, I think it aligned with how I thought of the world as someone who believes they're high integrity, who wants people to believe they're high integrity for my kids' sake. And, the integrity of telling my investors that up front is the release.
Uh-huh.
Meaning, I'm not telling my investors we're going to be 90% hit rate. If you give me money, you're going to hate me because you're going to think the idea that I love is the dumbest idea, the Robinhood.
Quote unquote.
Yeah.
Dumbest idea I've ever
You
heard.
are betting on me to hang 30 pieces of art in Howie's gallery, the Larry David gallery, and you will pick. If I gave you the choice to invest in all 30, you would pick the 2 that went to 0. So you're betting on me to see the world my way. And then I'm not telling you we're going to make 100 times our money, but my job is to find one company that's a 100-bagger. Okay. So I have to know math. I have to do this. I have to just get yelled at by my LPs when they read our quarterly letters and go, that was the dumbest idea. I'm like, you're right. Like, I'm embarrassed. But our job is to find a Robinhood, and we found many of them. LifeLock, Robinhood, Beehive. We've got one called Alpaca. Again, a trend with no friend.
AI?
No, Alpaca powers 1,000 Robinhoods around the world. They're like the modern Apex.
Uh-huh.
So I'm saying, like, our job is to know what we know, take crazy bets, and sell that to our LPs is like, you're investing for 10 years. This is like, it's not as good as it was in 2013 when rates were 0.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's a different game again. And I'm thinking, like, you've got Claude, and you can do you can analyze the stock in like 3 seconds. I'm like, everyone's a CFA all of a sudden if they want to be.
Right.
What a great time to be a public market investor. And yet everybody wants to be a private investor. So
It's
again,
so
it's
funny coming from you. who
yeah, no. In
specializes
2020, I've been writing about this since COVID. It's like public markets are amazing because there's so many stupid people making dumb bets on Robinhood, and dislocation is everywhere, and it's only getting worse.
And the degenerate economy is going to continue driving this theme.
Yes, and I think most people should index, but everybody should learn how to pick stocks too in this era.
I got you.
Yeah.
All right, so it's almost midnight. I only have you for a few minutes more, and you have to end up at your event
Awards
tonight.
Yeah.
Hashtag
and
Awards.
Breaking news: Stocktoberfest, October 6th, coming back to New York. That's our big event.
That's exciting.
Yeah, 1,000 people on the west side.
I am looking forward
October
to that.
6th. If you want to come, hit me up.
Let's do our speed round. 5 questions.
2 hours.
10 seconds each.
Okay.
I'm going to jump right into it, starting with,
Boxers.
who were your early mentors who helped shape your career?
I think I hate saying this, I didn't have good early mentorship. So I really take pride in mentoring other people because
Who were your later mentors? I hear Fred Wilson all
Yeah,
the time.
you, like people that I discovered. Like the mentorship came from the community. Being the mentor led me, like StockTwits, being a giver opened me up to get mentorship. I think young kids are not getting good mentorship.
So just pure karma.
Karma.
I love that. What are some of your favorite books? What are you reading right now? I know what you're reading next. What are you reading now?
Yeah, I got your butt. I don't read.
You're on flights all the time. What do you do? Just movies?
I'm so addicted to like HBO, Amazon.
So you're watching series?
Yeah, I'm just
That's
very
my
into
next
content.
question. What?
But hang on. So you're asking books. I still love the classic Shoe Dog for Business. You know, Phil Knight's book. I loved
That was fun.
Agassi's biography. I like stuff. I just my brain doesn't work with books.
Huh. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Tell us what you're watching on Netflix, HBO, Amazon.
I just rewatched The Nick. Have you watched The Nick on HBO?
Why
Soderbergh.
does that sound so
it's about
familiar?
the 1900s, the Knickerbocker Hospital.
No, I did not watch
Best
that.
show.
Really?
First season. It's like surgery wasn't done until like barbers used to do surgery in 1900.
Right.
All the rich oil guys started backing hospitals, and that was the original tech. Surgery was tech, and it's just an incredible period piece about the 1900s in Soho in New York.
Huh, I'll check
On
that
HBO.
out.
It's the
Give
best
us one
show.
more.
There's very little good stuff on TV. I think
Oh,
Rooster's pretty good.
Can I tell you something?
HBO.
You
Rooster's
have
funny.
that backwards.
Okay.
There's too much
But I
good
think I've
stuff.
seen it all.
Have you
If
seen
I'm
Landman?
Great. But that's more like Harlequin romance kind of series. They're fun to watch, and the kids like them too.
Okay.
But the Nick you'll love because
Did
it's
you
just
see
period piece.
Three Body Problem? If you want something a little more.
No, but that's sci-fi, I think. I don't like sci-fi.
You don't like sci-fi?
No,
Oh my-
I just
so you didn't watch The
zone out.
Expanse?
No, I didn't like that
my
either. I try it, and I never get into it.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I like Degenerate stuff.
How do you feel about spy, that sort of stuff?
I love them.
Killing Eve?
Killing is good.
Was great.
I like
Are
spy
you-
stuff. I can rarely follow it well
Night
enough
Agent?
I
Have
start
you seen
like
Night
dozing
Agent?
up. Yeah, it was good.
Wow.
Yeah.
How about any of the British period pieces?
I love BritBox. I watch BritBox.
All right. So The Crown,
Amazing.
Bridgerton.
Not Bridgerton, but BritBox is a great channel.
Yeah.
There's that Criterion for old movies.
If you have BritBox, go back and watch. What was the name of that show? There was a show that came out around the same time as Friends, only coupling, and
I'll watch it.
it has teeth. I mean, everything from the 90s is a little dated, but whereas Friends was kind of milquetoast and mushy, this has a sharp edge, and it's British, so it's nasty and funny in a way that only the Brits can do.
Okay, yeah. So I'm a media fanatic, but not like I'm weird, and I'm
We
so
know
bullish
that.
on YouTube, Apple TV.
YouTube is just great.
I just love YouTube.
All right, so final two questions. What sort of advice would you give to a college grad interested in either becoming a seed investor or a startup entrepreneur?
Well, I think there's no shame in being a number 2, number 3, or number 4. So chief of staff is the new CEO. So go be someone's chief of staff. Like, don't worry about pay or title. Worry about finding something that's working this way. It's much easier to go work for a company that's just working. So go, like, ignore the title.
Low-end job at
Ignore the salary. Find
Right.
a rocket ship and attach yourself, whether it's Manscaped. You're going to learn more. There are going to be smarter people around. There's going to be, less aggravation, more work. But hey, like, if you're really
But you
serious,
gotta grind
like
it
I
out
tell
the
my
first
daughter,
decade.
it's like, if you're really serious about this, it's going to take a lot of work, but go do it. If you're not serious, be a socialist. Like, it's okay, but like, don't fool yourself. Like, go work for a rocket ship. Otherwise, who are you talking to? So, like, there's no room anymore for these kids that, like, if you want to start a company, do you know it's 24/7?
Right.
And and no one's going to like you. And if you want to be a number 2, do you know what it takes to be a number 2? So I'm like, be honest, but like, go work for a company that's working.
And our
You'll learn
final
more.
question, what do you know about the world of venture and seed investing today that would have been helpful 65, 70 years ago when you were first getting started?
No, I think I luckily got the right mentorship and entered at the right time. I think you have to do it for a while. You got to get a crop. Like, if you're going to go do wine or weather matters, and same with tech. Like, what matters with
Vintage.
tech is you have to. If you were of the Google Glass era, not much worked.
Right.
If you were in the BlackBerry Fund 2008,
No go.
no go, baby. So
Unless you could have been an early investor in Apple or when they were public,
I'm
when
saying,
the iPhone
I think the
first
public
came
markets
out.
are underappreciated because seed investing became cool because of Zuckerberg and because of a few of these rocket ships.
See, I thought seed investing or venture investing really became cool in the 90s. and then in the 2000s kind of
became-
faded.
No, it's never been more. It's never been more loved.
Today.
Oh, I go see these young kids. It seems like they know nothing, and they all want to be venture investors. I'm like, God, have you ever bought a stock? Like, you get wounded like day one. Like, stock drops 20%. Like, go open a Robinhood account and learn how to invest. Like, if you don't know the public markets, what are you doing in the private markets?
Got to graduate to private.
Yeah, I think the guys who were interesting to me, and I'm not saying they still are, the crossover investors, the people that like knew the public markets and then started doing private. And I think that was my edge. I knew how pricing worked, whether I was right or wrong, I understood how markets worked. And the seed investing, the prices made sense to me relative to public markets. Now the prices in private markets make no sense to me.
Howard, it is always a blast when you come in. You're a bucking bronco. I never know where we're going to go. You are not Larry David. You are the Zach Galifianakis
I love Zach.
of finance.
He was just on Conan. Watch that episode.
I should put 2 ferns in here just for your arrival. Thank you, by the way, for being so generous with your time, and good luck at the Cash Tags Awards tonight. If you enjoy this conversation, well, check out any of the 600 we've done over the past 12 years. You can find those at iTunes, Spotify, Bloomberg, YouTube, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. I would be remiss if I didn't thank the crack team that helps put these conversations together each week. Alexis Noriega is my overworked video producer. Sean Russo is my researcher. Anna Luke is my podcast producer. I would also like to just drop a little piece of information. The paperback of How Not to Invest comes out today. By the time you hear this, it'll be out already. What else do I want to say other than...
You look good.
Thanks. I'm Barry Ritholtz. You've been listening to Masters in Business on Bloomberg Radio.